Imagine a Sunday afternoon. You're sitting in a car with your spouse parked across the street from a charming 2-story house in the suburbs. It has a porch, a big oak tree in the front yard, and that specific smell of cut grass and fresh paint that triggers something primal in your brain. It smells like safety. It smells like the future. You have spent 5 years eating cheap noodles, skipping vacations, and saving every cent to scrape together a down payment. You have run the numbers. You're ready. You offer the asking price, maybe even $10,000 over, just to be safe. You drive away feeling a nervous flutter in your stomach, a mix of hope and terror. You think you have done enough. An hour later, your phone rings. It is your real estate agent. Her voice is flat, tired, apologetic. She tells you that you didn't get the house. You ask if someone outbid you. She hesitates. Then she tells you the truth that is happening in every zip code from Phoenix to Atlanta. It was an all-cash offer, she says. 20% over asking price. No inspection required. They closed the deal in 24 hours. You hang up, confused. Who are these people? Who walks around with $500,000 in a suitcase, buying houses without even checking if the roof leaks or the basement floods? Is it a rich eccentric? A foreign oligarch? A lottery winner? No. It is something much worse. It is an algorithm. You didn't lose that house to a family that needed it more than you. You lost it to a spreadsheet. You lost it to a BlackRock, a Vanguard, a State Street. You entered a boxing ring thinking you were fighting another human being, only to find yourself staring down the barrel of a tank driven by an investment fund with trillions of dollars in assets. They didn't buy that house to live in it. They bought it to add a row to a database. To them, your dream home is not a shelter. It is a yield-generating asset, a bond with a roof, a line item on a balance sheet that must grow by 4% every quarter. This is not a housing crisis. This is a hostile takeover. The media will tell you it is a supply shortage. They will blame inflation, or supply chains, or millennials buying too much avocado toast. They are lying. The supply exists. It is just being vacuumed up by institutional predators who have access to practically free money from the Federal Reserve. They are sweeping through neighborhoods like a swarm of locusts, buying entire streets, entire blocks, entire subdivisions before they even hit the public market. They are counting on your silence. They are counting on you thinking this is just bad luck. They want you to stay asleep while they finalize the deed. The system's algorithms are designed to hide videos like this, so subscribe and hit the like button right now. It's the only way to guarantee the next warning reaches you before the catastrophe does. Let me know in the comments if you're ready to hear what the others are silent about. Now that you're listening, understand the mechanics of this theft. When a normal person buys a house, they need a mortgage. They need a bank to say yes. They need an appraisal. They need time. An investment fund needs none of that. They have lines of credit that are effectively infinite. They can outbid you, outweight you, and outspend you every single time. They are not buying high because they are stupid. They are buying high because they know the endgame. They know that if they control the supply of shelter, they control the population. Historically, homeownership was the primary way the middle class built wealth. You paid your mortgage, the house appreciated, and you passed that equity to your children. It was the ladder out of poverty. Wall Street has decided to burn that ladder. They don't want you to own. Owners are hard to control. Owners have equity. Owners have a voice. Tenants are profitable. Tenants live in fear of eviction. Tenants pay rent forever and own nothing at the end of the ride. You are witnessing the death of the American dream in real time. It is being dismantled brick by brick, not by communists or socialists, but by hyper-capitalists who have realized that a subscription model is more profitable than a sales model. Why sell you a house once when they can rent it to you for 50 years and keep the asset? The invisible buyer is everywhere. They are using satellite imagery, big data, and artificial intelligence to identify undervalued neighborhoods before you even know they exist. They are playing Monopoly, but they started the game with all the hotels on the board, and you are rolling the dice hoping to just pass go without going bankrupt. This was the first warning shot. You felt it when you lost that house. But you haven't realized yet what their ultimate plan is. It isn't just about making money on rent. It is about creating a new social class structure where you are permanently locked out of ownership. You have noticed it, haven't you? The slow, creeping change in how you consume the world. 10 years ago, you owned stacks of DVDs, you owned CDs, you bought software on a physical disk that you installed and kept forever. Today, you own nothing, you rent access. You pay Spotify for music, Netflix for movies, Adobe for Photoshop, Microsoft for Word. You stop paying and the screen goes black. The files are locked. The music stops. We accepted this because it was convenient. Who wants to store all those plastic discs, we said. The cloud is easier. But we didn't see the trap. We didn't see that we were being trained. Like lab rats conditioned to press a lever for a pellet of food, we were conditioned to accept that ownership is a burden and rent is freedom. Now Wall Street is taking that model, the subscription economy, and applying it to the roof over your head. They call it build to rent. It sounds harmless, almost industrial. But the philosophy behind it is chilling. Entire neighborhoods are being constructed right now where not a single home is for sale. From the moment the first shovel hits the dirt, every house is destined to be a rental unit owned by a corporation. You cannot buy there. You can only subscribe. Imagine living in a house where you cannot paint the walls because it violates the terms of service, where you cannot install a smart thermostat because the admin has locked the ecosystem, where you need to submit a ticket to an app just to get permission to have a pet. It feels like a hotel, but a hotel you can never check out of. It feels like a dormitory for adults. This is the psychological brilliance of the trap. An owner has roots. An owner cares about the neighborhood. An owner fights City Hall if they try to build a toxic waste dump next door. An owner is a citizen. A renter is transient. A renter is powerless. A renter doesn't fix the fence because it's not my fence. A renter is a nomadic source of cash flow, easily replaced, easily evicted, easily controlled. The corporations want a subscription society because it guarantees revenue. When you own a house, you pay the bank for 30 years and then you are free. The cash flow stops. That is a disaster for a hedge fund. They need money that flows forever. They want you to pay until you die. And then they want your children to pay to live in the same room you died in. They are selling you this nightmare as flexibility. They say, don't tie yourself down with a mortgage. Be free to move. Be a digital nomad. It is a lie wrapped in marketing glitter. Freedom is not the ability to move. Freedom is the ability to stay. Freedom is knowing that no landlord can raise your rent by 50% because an algorithm decided the market is hot. Freedom is knowing that if you lose your job, you have a roof that nobody can take away as long as you pay your property taxes. By destroying homeownership, they are removing your financial immune system. A homeowner has equity, a reserve of wealth they can tap into in an emergency. A renter has nothing. Every check you write to the landlord is money that leaves your life forever. You're fueling their equity, their wealth, their power, while yours drains away month by month. This is an extraction economy. They are mining you, and it goes deeper than just the house. Look at the smart home trends. Fridges that you subscribe to, washing machines that charge you per load, cars that require a monthly fee to unlock the heated seats you already paid for. They are turning every object in your life into a service. You're becoming a user in your own existence. The psychological toll of this is immense. It creates a permanent state of anxiety, a low-level hum of insecurity. You never truly feel at home because the home isn't yours. You're a guest who has overstayed their welcome, tolerated only as long as the direct deposit clears. This is not an accident. The housing crisis is not just market forces or supply and demand. It is an engineered outcome. When you lose bid after bid, when you watch mortgage rates climb, when you see zoning laws strangling new construction, you are not witnessing economic chaos. You are witnessing a deliberate design. The plan has a name. It is called forced urbanization, and its purpose is simple: to concentrate populations into high-density urban centers where they can be monitored, taxed, and controlled more efficiently. Think of it as herding cattle into a pen. The rancher doesn't hate the cattle. He just needs them in one place to maximize efficiency. Let's break down the tools they are using to execute this plan. Tool 1. Interest rate manipulation. When the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, they publicly claim they are fighting inflation. But look at the real effect. A 30-year mortgage at 3% is affordable for the middle class. At 7%, only the wealthy or the desperate can qualify. Higher rates lock out individual buyers while barely scratching institutional investors. Why? Because BlackRock doesn't borrow from a local bank at 7%. They borrow from the bond market at near zero rates, or they simply deploy cash reserves built on years of subsidized quantitative easing. The interest rate hike is a filter. It filters out you. It does not filter out them. Tool 2. Zoning laws as gatekeepers. In most American cities, over 70% of residential land is zoned exclusively for single-family homes. This artificially restricts supply. When you ask, why don't they just build more houses? The answer is, they legally can't. Local governments, captured by NIMBY homeowners and developers who profit from scarcity, have turned zoning into a weapon. They block multifamily housing, they block duplexes, they even block tiny homes. They call it preserving neighborhood character. What they are really preserving is a monopoly on housing that benefits those who already own, while choking out new entrants. This phrase sounds utopian, doesn't it? Everything you need within a 50-minute walk. But read the fine print. The World Economic Forum and urban planners are pushing these high-density, tightly controlled zones where you live, work, and consume within a geofence perimeter. They claim it reduces carbon emissions and increases quality of life. In reality, it creates human corrals. When everyone is crammed into vertical apartment towers surrounded by surveillance cameras, bike lanes, and no parking for private vehicles, you have created the perfect compliance grid. You cannot leave without permission. You cannot drive out. You are pinned. This is the modern enclosure movement. In medieval England, lords fenced off the common land that peasants used for grazing and farming. It forced the peasants into cities to work in factories. History is repeating itself. Only now the commons being enclosed are the suburbs and rural areas, and the factories are corporate office towers and gig economy app dashboards. The math is brutal. According to recent data, middle-class families in major urban centres now spend over 40% of their income on rent alone. That is not sustainable. That is feudalism. When housing costs exceed that threshold, you are no longer living, you are surviving. You have no savings buffer. You have no ability to take risks, to start a business, to say no to a bad employer. You're chained to the rent check. And the investors know this. They are playing Monopoly, and they have already bought Boardwalk and Park Place. Every time you roll the dice and land on their property, you pay them. And the board is rigged so that you will land on their properties more and more often. The free parking jackpot you were counting on? It has been removed from the game. We have arrived at the destination, the final stop on the line. After the invisible buyers, the subscription society, and the forced urbanization, what are we left with? It is not capitalism anymore. It is something older, something uglier. It is neo-feudalism. Look at the structure. It is brutally simple. In the Middle Ages, there were lords who owned the land, and there were serfs who worked the land and paid tribute, rent, for the right to live on it. Now, look at 2025. There are the new lords. These are not kings and castles. They are faceless corporations. Blackstone, Vanguard, State Street. They are the shareholders of these funds. They own the land. They own the apartment towers. They own the single-family homes. They own the resource that cannot be created. Earth. Their wealth is not measured in dollars, but in square miles of residential property. And then there are the new serfs. That is you. You do not own the land. You live on it. You pay tribute your monthly rent for the privilege of having a roof over your head. You have no equity. You have no long-term security. Your entire existence is a line item in their portfolio, an entry in their quarterly report. You work not to build a future, but to pay for the present. The social contract is broken. For a century, the promise was this: work hard, play by the rules, and you can achieve a piece of the dream. You can own property. You can pass wealth to your children. This was the social elevator that took generations out of poverty and into the middle class. That elevator is now out of service. The wealth of homeowners is over 40 times higher than that of renters. By locking you out of ownership, they are not just taking your money, they are stealing your future. You are condemned to a life of financial precariousness, unable to accumulate assets, unable to build a safety net. The rent you pay is a direct transfer of wealth from your labor to their pockets. You're working for them, not for yourself. And this new feudalism is more insidious than the old one. The medieval serf could at least see his lord. He knew the face of his master. Your new lord is an algorithm, a faceless customer service agent in another country, a corporate policy written in legalese that you agreed to when you clicked accept. You have no one to appeal to. You have no one to reason with. You are subject to the cold, hard logic of profit maximization. If you lose your job, you are evicted. If you get sick, you are evicted. If you complain, you are evicted. There is no loyalty. There is no community. There is only the contract. This is the endgame of the you will own nothing and you will be happy philosophy. They forgot to tell you the second half of that sentence. Because if you are not happy, We will turn off your access to everything. Is there a way out? They want you to believe there is not. They want you to accept this as the new normal. But the cage is not yet fully locked. The escape routes are narrowing, but they still exist. First, refuse to play the game. Stop aspiring to rent a luxury shoebox in a smart city. Look at small towns. Look at rural areas. Look at places the algorithms have not yet targeted. The land is still there. Second, treat property as a fortress. If you are one of the lucky ones who already owns, do not sell. Do not take on massive home equity loans. Your house is not a piggy bank. It is your family's last line of defense against becoming serfs. Guard it with your life. Third, build real communities. The system wants you isolated, atomized, a lonely consumer in a pod. Your strength is in your neighbors. Get to know them. Build networks of mutual aid. A neighbor who can help you fix your roof is worth more than 1,000 shares in a tech company. The great divide of the 21st century will not be between left and right. It will be between the owners and the owned, the landlords and the tenants, the new nobility and the digital peasantry. They have chosen their side. Now you must choose yours, because in this new world you're either a lord or you're a serf. There is no middle ground left.